into Omarosa's claims, and let's bring in our political panel to talk about it tonight. We have a great panel. It's Vince Coglianese from the conservative Daily Caller, as well as a liberal radio host from San Francisco, KGOAM, Ethan Behrman. Gentlemen, we appreciate you both coming in.
Thanks, sir.
Thanks, Ed.
Vince, even before this book comes out, it seems some of it to be falling apart. At one point, Omarosa says that she heard that Frank Luntz heard the president use the N-word. Look at this tweet from Frank Luntz tonight, as you just heard from Trace. It seems like certain book publishers, he says, these days care more about getting a release out than getting the facts down. This is why people don't trust these exposés, which is especially bad for authors who actually are good and reliable. This seems like it's blowing up on Omarosa already.
No question about it. And she's taking advantage, and her publisher's taking advantage of a market that's looking to damage the president. And what did they get? They're going to get a whole bunch of mainstream interviews. You'll have Omarosa rolling out to some of the biggest places, all with the intention of hurting the president here. And they're taking advantage of her now when they really resented her when she was in the position. They thought very little of Omarosa, the idea that she would represent the president of the United States, that she would do African-American outreach for that White House. And now that she's out of the White House and criticizing the president, the veracity of her claims, the weakness of the claims that are already out in the book not yet released, should be a warning sign to anybody who's even considering having a discussion with her, that if they make it seem like her claims are credible, then they're going to be laughed at here.
Let's get Ethan in here, because I saw Torre, a former MSNBC host, tweeting as well tonight. So even from the left, if Omarosa heard Trump use the N-word repeatedly during her time on The Apprentice and believed him to be racist, why didn't she say this during the campaign? And why did she agree to work with him at the White House? Seems like a fair question, Ethan.
Well, it's not an unfair question, but really, let's set all this aside for a second. Do we really need an Omarosa book to confirm what we already know? We go back to the Nixon administration. The Trump real estate companies wouldn't rent to black people. We had the birther certificate issue. We had the Mexicans are rapists. We have such a long line of issues that have happened with this president. 49% of Americans think he's racist, according to Quinnipiac. I don't need Omarosa's book to confirm what most
Hang on,
Americans
Ethan. You're
already
stringing
think about the
together.
president.
Okay, but pardon me, you're stringing together all kinds of allegations and just flat out saying the president is racist. We've got a former staffer.
I said
inside the White House.
49% do, Ed.
No, what you're saying is you want to believe this book is true when you're looking at the evidence and it's clearly not.
I don't need the book to be true or not,
Ethan,
Vince. When I look at the material
let
sitting
Vince talk,
out here,
and then you can respond. Vince, go ahead.
Who's built his whole presidential campaign was started with the birther issue, denying that Barack Obama is an American citizen, saying he was Kenyan, Vince.
Okay, I got it. Your feelings are hurt. I got it. And the whining is pretty overwhelming here, and it has been. But if you look at the real numbers, I mean, the idea, black unemployment at record low levels, black approval. Yeah. Rasmussen's been tracking this. Black approval has actually doubled since where it was last year of the president of the United States. And I think plenty of people are starting to realize sort of the racial politics that are all surrounding all of this are being used to undermine him, when in fact he's focused not on race. He's focused not on going after people based on that, but instead advancing the stakes of most Americans. And that's the message he keeps trying to get out there. But people like Ethan would rather dwell on that because want to see him fail.
Because there were very fine. We have a state of emergency in Charlottesville, Virginia. Thanks, Vince. We got a state of emergency in Charlottesville because the president refuses to denounce white supremacists when he has a chance. He did that with David Duke when he was on another cable news network during the campaign. And he says there are very fine people on both sides. That's a nice try, Vince.
So because crazy people exist, that's his fault.
Completely disagree.
Okay, let Vincent.
Yeah, because I mean, look, you look at Charlottesville, you look at David Duke. The idea that insane people exist, that's his fault. That's not. And this idea,
that he doesn't denounce them.
What does that have to do with the state of emergency,
them.
Ethan? This is insane.
Vince, it's called you denounce people with horrific viewpoints that have no place in America, and black people suffered under white people pretending it wasn't happening under Jim Crow, during Reconstruction, during the slavery era, and then you want to pretend like, oh, well, if we just kind of ignore that it's happening, everything's going to be
okay. Let me jump in here. Ethan, you're talking, hang on, Vince. Ethan, you're talking about Jim Crow long before President Trump was in office. You're talking about things from decades, centuries ago. Answer what Vince was saying, which is that actually, as president of the United States, he's lowering the unemployment rate for African Americans beyond any level they've ever seen. How is that not a good thing?
Of course, it's a good thing to have low unemployment. It's also really important that wages keep up with inflation. And remember, since the tax reform plan, that was the big giveaway by the Republicans and this president, real wages have fallen behind inflation. They've actually dropped 1.8%. So good to have low unemployment. What matters more are wages rising to go along with it. And how about health care so people can afford it? What are the Republicans doing on that? And better yet, whatever happened to Infrastructure Week and the president's tax returns? These are all really big issues.
Let Vince in for a final word.
Meanwhile, on this issue, of course, the president focused on prison reform this week while he's been in Bedminster, an issue of a sincere concern to the black community. And this whole notion, Jim Crow laws, that's insane, Ethan. This is guilt by word association. You just figure if you say a bunch of words and then say Trump and append it to them all together, that you could hurt him. And that's sad.
All right. Gentlemen, our next segment is going to be about incivility in politics. That was relatively civil, not completely.
We tried.
Have a good weekend, gentlemen.
Take care.
Thanks,
All right, as I mentioned.